Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're doing North American predictions. I'm not sure how. Let's just dive into it. I'm not sure how Schnitzel House ends up with the #1 overall seed. So to talk about that, we'll briefly recap what happens in the Swiss stages. We saw Schnitzel House go 3-0 and have the best Buchel score, which is kind of insane. Ultimate to keep up their 3-0 streak in complexities is broken by Schnitzel House. Schnitzel House, by the way, is Lion Blaze, Panda, and Psy. They didn't make the main event last time, so it's kind of crazy. We saw Deleted Evo go 3-2. The boys went 3-1. They took NRG to a Game 5 overtime. NRG closed it out there. Bubble Sort is Mech again. I know there was a lot of hype around him last event. He's back. A couple key missers, I guess, would be Nah, What's Up, Lotus 8, and Gas as well. If we go to Swiss Stage B, most comfortable Swiss qualification of all time. I'm impressed. Good job, guys. GenG also made it through 3-0. SOS only lost with the Space Station. They went 3-1, so props to them. Rebellion through 3-1, only lost to Space Station as well. Strictly Business 3-1, only lost to GenG. So all quality losses around here in this 3-1 range. SimTalk +1 goes 3-2. Alpha Kep, we let him make a regional for some reason. And Pirates on a Boat barely scraped by. I was watching this series. It was a tragic own goal by Oath to tie it up with like 47 seconds left. I feel so bad for the kid. Let's get into it. This should be the freest group for Rebellion of all time, and so I'm probably not going to predict it. It just feels like a scenario where I would love to see Rebellion make this. I just don't really have confidence in them. Should I be predicting Schnitzel House over Pirates on a Boat here based on how they looked in Swiss? Yes, but the problem is I just trust Pirates to bounce back more. I trusted them last event, and I probably shouldn't have. I'm going to go 5, but I will predict Pirates here just because they have a longer legacy of getting good results. And I mean, these guys beat some good opponents, but it would actually kind of surprise me to see them repeat their performance here in the main event. Rebellion the Boys. I said this was a losable match. Not Rebellion and the Boys specifically, but I had Strictly Business in this position last time, beating Rebellion, so we would avoid the Rebellion-GenG matchup. That being said, Rebellion beat them pretty comfortably. So I'm going to have Rebellion on beating them this time because I think... Yeah, I predicted the other way last time. I got to go with my gut a little bit. I'll have Rebellion here. They deserve the shout after how they performed last regional. This quadrant is a lot more brutal. You got GenG and Deleted. I've got decent amount of confidence in GenG winning this match. They're just a better team in current form. Deleted impressed me last event by making top 8. I had them going out last, and it was instead Pirates on a Boat in that position. But definitely some respect given to Deleted there. NRG should be beating SimTalk +1. Kind of crazy you guys are still going by this name, but we ball. Space Station versus Bubble Sword. This should be very comfortable for Space Station. We actually have had not that many problems dealing with teams that we should be able to deal with this split, so it's kind of been nice. Complexity Strictly Business. Strictly Business was kind of impressive during the Swiss, but I do trust Complexity more to just be able to win this outright. Complexity hasn't really lost in groups yet at all. Actually, maybe they've lost a seeding match here or there, but they've been very solid throughout the year. Ultimate's little step bros. We don't need to talk about it. And SOS versus Team Evo. I want to see SOS succeed here. They had a pretty solid Swiss run going 3-1. If they can actually break down Evo's fundamentals, I think they could take them. Will they be nervous? Probably. I'm giving it to Evo, but just barely. I'll give out SOS the 5 games, but I see Team Evo's experience coming through there for them. Pirates on a Boat Rebellion. I'm going to get flamed for having Pirates on a Boat in the top 6 again, but I guess old habits die hard. I'll have him beating Rebellion because I just, as much as this should be a bracket for Rebellion to go through and make top 6 pretty easily, I have to see it first before I predict it. And then GenG versus NRG. We've seen this multiple times. We saw it was a sweep in the finals. This is one of the days where you could catch out GenG, or you could catch out NRG if you're GenG. I think they're going to be more on their toes. They know this is coming. I'm going to have it go NRG's way. Jeez, those names are too similar for me. Schnitzel House and the Boys. The Boys are much better on paper. Schnitzel House went 3-0 through the Swiss. Is it kind of insane to have a 3-0 team going and the #1 overall seed technically going out 0-2? Yeah, but I'm going to do it. I back the Boys. They kind of got shafted last event because they had to forfeit their 2 matches. I don't know if they would have been favored in either of those matches, but they did just prove that they weren't bad by taking NRG to a Game 5 overtime. Granted, NRG and Swiss, you do what you got to do, but I'll have the Voice going through here. And then Deleted versus SimTalk. That should be a win for Deleted. I'll give SimTalk the 1 game, but it should go through. Space Station Complexity. If there's ever a time for Space Station to win, it's right here. This is really the battle for fourth spot in North America. We saw it last event. It went to Complexity. Space Station should be itching towards revenge. But in order to check the bias that I very clearly have, I'm actually going to predict Complexity here. Fun fact, Space Station is still undefeated in groups. You can give us a little invisible trophy considering we didn't make the groups for the second event. But we are undefeated on Fridays. I think Complexity might be 2, to be honest. But they, again, as I mentioned, might have lost a seeding match to NRG. But I'll have Complexity going through here. Space Station dropping to lowers. But again, like I was saying last week, it was about an 80-20% chance, like a 20% chance that Space Station beats Ultimates. They ended up beating Ultimates. I'd give it a higher chance of them beating Complexity here. So look out. Ultimates versus Team Evo. This should be comfortable for Ultimates, to be honest. I should be predicting a 3-0. Bubble Sort, Strictly Business. I'd love to see Bubble Sort win this, but Strictly Business is a really solid team. Going to give them the series in 4. Then SOS versus Little Step Bros. I think SOS was saying they beat them in Swiss. Was that actually go down? Yes, they did. SOS beat Little Step Bros 3-2 in Swiss. We'll give them a little bit more of an edge. 3-1. Stop clicking on random buttons. All right. GenG versus the boys. Should be GenG's comfortably. Very tough draw for the boys to end up drawing into here. But they probably have to beat Rebellion to have a chance of making the top 8, to be honest. So, because you're dropping down to either NRG or GenG. That's completely brutal. The fact that this is actually... These were our finalists. And we're going to have one of them going to lower bracket early. That's crazy. Repeated. Rebellion versus Deleted. These are the teams that are kind of 7th, 8th in the event. I haven't mentioned 9 lives yet because they didn't make the main event. They went 1-3, which is kind of insane. But these are the teams that I guess are now contending for the 6th, 7th ranked spot. I think you give the edge to Rebellion right now because at least last split there was that series against Deleted. It went to 7. I don't know if it went to overtime. I can't remember. It was a very close game 7 by the end of it. But Rebellion squeaked out the win to make top 6 that event. I'm going to lean the predictions in the same way because I think Rebellion's raised their floor. And I think it is probably a floor that's going to be high enough to be able to take down Deleted. It's going to go 5. It'll be entertaining. Rebellion barely scraped through to the top 8. And then in Group B, Team Evo Strictly Business, another European battle. I think Strictly Business are in better form. I'll have to go 5, but Business get to the top 8 yet again. And then Space Station versus SOS. This should be going Space Station's way. I'll give SOS 1 game. They didn't get one in the Swiss. It was a 3-0, but they actually looked pretty impressive against Space Station. Maybe later in the day, it's more of a 3-0 or more of a confident 3-0, but I'll give SOS the game. And then one of these matches is not like the others. NRG Complexity. We saw a complete smackdown last event. If Complexity wants to be taking games against NRG, it's going to be right here. I'll give it a 4-1 because we kind of saw this last split as well, but NRG is just head and shoulders above Complexity. Ultimates versus Pirates should be cleanly for Ultimates. I'm going backwards in terms of the day. Oh, this would be at 1 o'clock. Nice. Space Station Rebellion is kind of an insane draw. But we did deal with Rebellion. We were saying it should have been, or Xpire was saying it should have been 3-0. I'll give it 4-2, but Space Station should be taking that one home. Strictly Business versus GenG. GenG's owned Strictly Business all season. This is the first time Strictly Business looked competitive against them. It was in the Swiss. It was in the round 3. It was a reverse sweep by GenG, I believe. Should be more comfortable in the playoff bracket. Definitely giving that one to GenG. Complexity GenG. I'll start down here because this is the order on Championship Sunday. Pirates on a Boat, Space Station. This has got to be a revenge match. Got to be a revenge match. Got to get them 4-1 here. Should be Space Station into the top 4, in my opinion. Complexity versus GenG. This is a tough draw for Complexity to drop down here, but it's the series that you got to be winning if you want to make the major. It's a little bit unfortunate that the matchup, if the bracket works out like this, the winner of this match is actually in a more difficult spot than the loser. Sure, you got to win your series, but the loser has to go through Rebellion and Pirates. They have to win both of those, but meanwhile, the winner has to face, like, NRG. Well, maybe not the winner, but Complexity has to face NRG and GenG. I say not the winner because I think Space Station is the 1 seed in this group. They are. And so they would actually go through, take this spot from the Ultimates and be facing the 2 seed coming out of this group, which I guess would be Pirates in this case. I also think that in an elimination match, Space Station is going to level up against Pirates. So you got our top 4 here. Ultimates, GenG, NRG, Space Station. I predicted Ultimates to lose to GenG last event. They didn't end up facing them, but they did lose to Space Station in groups and then NRG and the Swiss. I think Ultimates are coming out hungry. They'll take this one 4-2. NRG Space Station should be going to NRG. I'd love to see us challenge. I'll give it 3 for the memes, but should be going to Space Station. And then Ultimates NRG. I know it's a classic matchup for the final, but it's time. I'm sorry, it's overdue. We've been waiting on LJ to win an event for so long, and it feels like the second event is normally that event where, at least I'm looking at NRG and saying, wow, they, every single time that the old NRG roster of Squishy, Garrett, and AJ, no, Squishy, that's gas. Justin, Garrett, and Squishy, every single time that roster did well after their fall off, it was always an event too. If you look at like spring of 2022, it was the second event of the split where they did the best. Same with fall of 2022. And then I think it was also spring of 2023, where those were like the only times that NRG made top 4. So that's normally the event where, barriers tend to be broken. I hope this is the one for LJ. I've got Ultimates winning this event. They put themselves back on top. They're not going to take kindly to going out top 6, especially with the strength of schedule that they had. There's already people claiming that the real finals was NRG versus Ultimates, and I see the argument considering that was the closest series on the day, and then NRG just kind of swept their way through the rest of the tournament. So to make things interesting, yeah, got Ultimates winning this event. We'll see how this ends up aging, but in terms of how the land spots would stand heading into the final event, it'd be really close. Have complexity down by 2 points to Space Station. Rebellion would have themselves in an achievable spot, but I mean, down by 8 points is really difficult. It's nothing that Reddles hasn't done before, in fairness. But yeah, and then Worlds points, it would be a 6-point gap. I believe the minimum amount of points you get for making land is like 3, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so that's what I got. Hopefully you all enjoyed the predictions. Shout out to the channel members. Appreciate your guys' support. And I will catch you guys next time.